to this week's episode of the Just Up podcast with me, Tim Chase, and my glamorous guest today is Talia Lazarus, podcaster, presenter, and everything else in between. Talia, welcome.
Thank you so much, Tim. Thank you for having me. How are you?
I'm all right. Yeah, just got back from a hard gym session, which is why I look a little bit flustered right now. But yeah, final for Christmas and now Easter weights. But yeah, doing all right. How about you? How was your Easter?
Yeah, my Easter was really lovely, thank you. I mean, it started off with, I'm just going to drop it in there, it started off with Arsenal, winning 5-1 against Real Madrid. So it kind of started Wednesday night, and it kept going. I'll leave it there. I'll just leave it there. It kept going.
Yeah, exactly. So what do you think it was? Do you think it was? I think it's the first podcast I've done since then. Do you think it was Arsenal and Arteta just got the tactics totally right, or do you think Real Madrid just didn't show up? What's your thoughts?
I think it's a little bit of both. And obviously, when you play, obviously, like Arsenal played, whenever this goes out, Arsenal played Crystal Palace last night, and playing in Europe is always very different to playing in regards to Premier League. When you play the Premier League, you know the teams as well. You'd think that would work, knowing them inside out, but I actually think it doesn't. I think it hinders it sometimes because you're so used to playing each other. I mean, look, at the end of the day, yeah, with regards to Real Madrid, yes, they didn't show up, and we took our chances, and Declan Rice was a miracle. So
unbelievable, wasn't it? I remember watching it with my son. We were playing darts, and we saw Declan Rice score a free kick, and then they cut to Roberto because I think it was almost a carbon copy of it. Obviously, it was the outside of his boot, not the inside. And then we said, Declan's got another free kick, and we went, no, he's not going to score it. And then he scored possibly the most perfectly placed free kick I've ever seen. Yeah. And we're a Chelsea household, so we were just blown away by it. But yeah, he's suddenly levelled up, isn't he?
Yeah. I mean, it was just absolutely unbelievable. And then obviously when that second one went in, I mean, wow. Like, again, everybody, when he lined up, I remember people, because I was at the Emirates for that game, when he lined up for the second one, people around were like, can you imagine if that goes in? No one kind of expected it. Everyone was just like, can you imagine? But obviously what happened was he'd got the confidence from the first one. It was obvious. He'd got the confidence. So, he probably stood there and thought, I can do this. But yeah, I mean, I'm excited for PSG. I am.
Well, you guys must be the favourites now, no? Because obviously Real Madrid, whenever the Champions League starts, they're the favourites because they win it every year pretty much. But do you think guys are the favourites? Yeah,
I do. And it's funny because I've spoken to loads of different people and Spurs fans who are all saying, even Spurs fans are like, they hate to say it, but they're like, this could be it for Arsenal, like, as in we could do it this year. I turned up I watched the second leg. I didn't go to Madrid. I watched the second leg with a bunch of friends, and I turned up and everyone was really nervous. And I turned up and I was like, there's no need to be nervous, guys. I was like, we've got this. And they were like, why? And I was like, for me, obviously it's Real Madrid. They are, categorically and historically one of the best teams. But I just had this feeling, I was like, they're just not going to show up and score 3/4 goals. They're just not. And even if they score 3, we were always going to score at least 1 or 2, at least. So that's just kind of how it felt. I think getting those 3 goals at the Emirates was just pure magic.
Yeah. Do you still think the same when Saka missed the penalty? Because if you missed that penalty right at the beginning of the first half, when he missed that penalty, I was like, oh, does that mean maybe there's going to be a bit of a collapse here?
Well, it was a bit of a mixture, wasn't it? I can't remember. They got a. Oh God, I don't want to get it wrong. They got it was forwards and backwards with decisions. Theirs was offside there. They had something happen to them first. For the life of me, I can't remember. This is so bad. I was just happy for Arsenal. I think theirs was. They had an off.
Saka missed.
Yeah, but they had a decision go against them, then we had a decision go against us. Obviously, the Declan Rice's yellow card was withdrawn, which was amazing, because that means he's playing. But it was like one decision against them, then we obviously had the penalty, missed it, and I think it was kind of forwards and backwards. So at that point, it was like, oh no, this is going anyway.
Yeah, so I think it was, so Mbappe scored, and that was disallowed for offside. I think it was
that's the one, yeah.
Massively offside. And Saka got the penalty, and there was loads of arguments around that, as you understand. He missed the penalty, and then Real Madrid had a penalty given that was then rejected by VAR. So yeah, it must have been quite stressful environment to be in.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
but
I mean, it's a fantastic game though, from a neutral point of view. I did the same because obviously Gilberto and Ali Adair and Jens and all these other Arsenal players are kind of friends of the family. My son's met them all, and obviously at Strive Aid as well. And I go, so we celebrating Gilberto and the Arsenal team tonight when they're playing Madrid. He goes, no, we're celebrating Roberto. I'm like, yeah, but kind of Gilberto is one of your sister's godfather. He goes, no. I'm like, well, why is that? I always support an English team in Europe, no matter who they are. I always support the English team in Europe. And I said, we've got to support the English team. And no, I was like, well, why not? He said, because I still want Chelsea to be the only London club that won the Champions League. I'm like, it's a bit sinister, mate. But yeah, Gilberto, I'm sorry if you ever watch this. I'm sorry.
everyone's got their reasons why they do things, so I get it.
This episode of Just Start is powered by Alloy Collectors. Football fans, it's time to level up your merch. Alloy Collectors transforms football jerseys into premium metal collectibles, because true fans deserve more than just another scarf or mug. Get 15% off with code JUSTSTART and grab a limited edition Just Start X Alloys tee. Plus, score a chance to attend a private exclusive event with some of the biggest names in UK football.
So welcome to the podcast. Bit of a move from the topics, but yeah, welcome to the podcast. This is all about just starting and getting people comfortable that yes, all the plans are in place. I've got this great idea. I'm fully committed behind it, and just kind of going for it. So, just want to find out a little bit. You've also done hundreds of podcasts, but this is probably the first time you get to talk about yourself a little bit. So, I'm putting the spotlight back on you. Let's see if we can find where there was a moment where you kind of got that kind of entrepreneurial, just start sort of spirit. So, what was your kind of childhood kind of like, and kind of going from there?
Oh, we're going all the way back to childhood.
Yeah, paper rounds and everything.
Oh, okay. Wow. Okay. So when I look back, you know, I always had it in me where, and I get it, everyone's in very different jobs that might listen to this, but I always had it in me where I just couldn't stand office jobs. I mean, this isn't childhood, but I know this is probably more like post-uni, early 20s, but like, I couldn't stand office jobs. I couldn't stand 9 to 5. I couldn't stand being micromanaged. Like, I just couldn't stand it. Maybe that's me and my personality. I just couldn't stand it. So, you know, I mean, when I look really far back as a child, you know, I wanted to do all these. I wanted to be an actor, as I think most people, or especially women.
I can see that. I can definitely see that.
I wanted to be an actor, actress. At one point. It's funny because when I look really far back, I actually wanted to be a presenter. And then the dream, and there was a time when I actually did want to be a presenter, and this could years ago, like as a maybe early teens, but I think I just dismissed it and got on the wheel and school and uni and office job and as everyone does. And I say unfortunately because I think that a lot of people just get lost on the wheel and it's not really what they're meant to be doing. So now I can see that when I look back. But I think for, you know, but you know, I was telling this to somebody only recently. I went back to my secondary school and I was talking to the year 11s. So they're kind of, or year 12s, so kind of like around the age where they're just, you know, they're starting to figure out what they want to do. And I remember talking to a few of the girls nailed it. They know exactly what they wanted to do, the degree they wanted to do. Yeah, fair enough, respect it. And then I spoke to some other girls that were just like, I went to a girls' school, so they were just like, I don't know. And those were the girls, either of them. But I noticed something that day when I spoke aloud to a few of them, because I could see it in their faces. When I looked back, I went, okay, I left my secondary school after GCSEs, and I went to a different secondary school for A-levels. It was just my choice. Left that one after the first year of A-levels because I wasn't happy there. Went from a school environment to a college because I, again, couldn't stand assemblies and having to be in at 9, not allowed to leave until like 4. I couldn't stand that. I think that's why I have to do this freelance job. You can see it kind of started way back when. I couldn't do it. And I tried 7 different A-levels. Oh, yeah. I tried 7.
Can you remember them all?
I tried 7 different A-levels. When I went to that first school for A-levels, I started history of art. I started out of the 7. Let me try and remember what I did. I finished. Okay, I started history of art, which I think I only did for 1 year. I started photography. I'll never forget this. My dad bought me like a, expensive 400 something pound camera. He still holds it to me because I did photography for about 4 days and we had this 400-pound camera just like at home. I was like, yeah, sorry, Dad. Drop that one. I started English language. No, literature. Drop that one. But this is all at the beginning, like before. I'm not even talking. I dropped them in the first week, and then I continued on with history of art, sociology, psychology, and one more. I don't know. I don't know now. I don't know. I started 7, and I dropped about 3 of them in the first week.
Nice. Which one did you complete?
Well, look, I'm going to hold up my hands and be completely honest here. So I then left that secondary school with an A, a D, and I'm pretty sure an E in my first year of A levels. And I went to this college, and I then dropped history of art, did the sociology and psychology, and I decided to pick up a all-intensive AS and A2 in 1 year, right? Which was film studies. I mean, that just is me to a T. Forget sociology and. That was me to a T at the time, and I got an A. When I completed that, I got an A because it showed me, look, when I love something and I'm passionate about something and I want to work hard for something, it showed me enough. I was able to complete a 2-year course in 1 year and walk out with an A. Sociology and psychology, on the other hand, I got 2 Ds. I got 2 Ds, but I might have revised for them like the night before. So again. There you go. And I think it's really important to know as well, like if anyone is listening, especially if they are younger, like grades are somewhat important for some things, but like, I got into university with an A and 2 Ds. Then I got an unconditional at Leeds Metropolitan for sports journalism. Oh, sorry, sports marketing. I called them up on results day and I said, I'm not coming. So again, I changed my course and my university on results day, and I went to the University of Hertfordshire and I did a straight up marketing and advertising course. But you see, like, it was non-stop change of wanting to not entirely sure and continuously trying to figure things out. But then when I got to university, I wanted to just make a point to myself and show when I do work hard for something and I put everything into it, I needed to do it for me, that I get the grades. And look, I graduated with a first class degree. So,
wow, amazing.
Thank you.
So that's the chopping and changing things. You could kind of view it as one way. You're kind of just chopping and changing lots, and maybe that was your age and all your personality and things. But for me, it kind of makes me think that you actually subconsciously or somewhere you knew what you wanted to be. You knew what the end goal was, and you went, do you know what? I try it. It's not for me. I try it. It's not for me. So actually, somewhere you did have a plan, and it just didn't fall within your plan. You were actually pretty. Brave are going, do you know what? I'm not going to waste 2 years of my life doing this. I'm actually going to cut it off now, cut my losses right away. Yes, I might end up doing 10 A levels on different ones, but do you know what I mean? I think for me, it's actually really good. Shows really good instinct for someone, because a lot of people would have stuck those 2 years out and gone, I hated those 2 years. I now don't want to do anything ever to do with those subjects. So I think it's actually really brave and a positive thing that you do try things. But then go, do you know what? I've tried it and it ain't for me. I think it's better to know that, because you probably go through life having very little, probably too personal, but you get little to no regrets because you've tried it.
I really appreciate that. Thank you. And I think that's always been me, even when I look back as a child, and even more now after everything I've been through, more so now than ever. I have to try things. Even sometimes someone, whatever it might be, someone might go, Talia, maybe that's not such a good idea. Or maybe Talia, or even like, you probably shouldn't do that. Or maybe you shouldn't go on that date, whatever it might be. Yeah. And I'll kind of take it in, go, cool, thanks. Do it, because I need to do it. And then either go, see, it worked out, or, yeah, okay, fair enough. You can tell me you told me so now. But I have to learn for myself. And I think that's really important. Even for anyone listening, is you don't really know unless you do it yourself. Everyone can tell you, you can take advice from everyone, but everyone's also giving you advice. Advice is amazing, don't get me wrong, but everyone's also giving you advice from what they would do. So you could be talking to someone who's terrified of everything, never puts themselves out there, would never, be an entrepreneur or go in front of a camera or do the scary things in life, and they're happy on that, even that wheel I was talking about before, and they're content. And so you may be, and that could be that could be someone you love dearly that you listen to all the time, and again, take on the advice, respect it, but everyone's shaped very differently, and you have to do what you want, and you have to figure out what you want, I think, by yourself. Obviously, I'm not talking about doing really dangerous things, and everyone says don't. There's a safety thing involved, 100%. Yes, but think about the consequences. If it's not going to lead you into some terrible circumstances, then give everything a go.
That's it, and that's what I try and sort of tell my kids, is that just try everything. Just try it. You never know. You might end up being the world's expert. For example, my son did jiu-jitsu for the first time yesterday and absolutely loved it, and is now already working out a plan for being the next UFC. I think he's got his mind's a headline at UFC 400 in London at the O2. But he's doesn't normally a kid that tries new things. Yeah. He isn't. So it was actually really brave from him to go and try this thing, especially he's 12 and it was under 15. So 12 to 15 was the age group, so he was the smallest kid in there. And the blokes, the teachers were great, the pupils were amazingly supportive and sort of helped coach them through. And he came back bouncing off the walls. And I was like, this is such a good message. He's trying that, I think, overcoming that fear once, and go, oh, she wasn't that bad. And then the fear, like you said, I don't mean feel like jumping out of a plane or anything like that, but the fear that you kind of put yourself, and maybe some other people put that on you, because like you said, it's from their perspective, and they may do it differently. Yeah. Like if I said I wanted to be a professional footballer, and Roberto Carlos said he wanted to be a professional footballer, if I didn't make it, I'd say, look, Roberto, you can't be a professional footballer. It's too risky. There's all this sort of stuff. And he goes, well, I'll do it differently to you. Yeah. I'll do it differently to you. My experiences aren't going to be your experiences, and I think that's a really interesting point.
And that's actually it is, and that's the key message. And even, I'm sure we'll get into it, my journey. There's being a presenter or having my own podcast and things like that. I think comparison is we all fall down at comparison. We'll all look at everyone else in our industries or in our age groups or whatever everyone else is doing that we might surround ourselves with, and we compare all the time. Everyone does it. I do it. Everyone does it. But that's where we do fall short, because we're comparing against people that every journey is so different. Every journey is so different, and how you get to somewhere and how you do things. And I'm also a big believer of, whether it's work or whatever it might be, if someone else got the job or the partner or the person you liked or whatever it is, that was always for them. That was always going to be their partner, their job, their whatever it is. And whatever's meant to be for you will never pass you. And I hold that. I hold that. Whatever is meant for you will never pass you. And whatever's not meant to be yours, you'll never get.
Yeah, I agree. There's a great phrase, and I know I was on your podcast and came with catchphrases every 5 minutes, but there's a really good phrase that I like, which I heard a few years ago now, which is, comparison is the thief of joy. It's such a good phrase. Yeah, it is. It just is. Get some t-shirts made up with all these catchphrases and come out and make a fortune.
I got so many, I forget about them all the time.
I need to write a book. In fact, I am writing a book with all these just start phrases from people that have said. So like from Jude Bellingham to Dyson to Ben Francis, all these phrases that they came up with and kind of elaborating on what they meant to them. My favourite one is, because obviously with a tech startup, is the founder of LinkedIn said, if you launch your product, if you're not embarrassed by your first app, you've waited too long to launch it.
Really? So basically if you're embarrassed when you first do something, it's actually a good thing.
Yeah, if you're not embarrassed by the time you first launch your product, I think it's product. If you're not embarrassed when you look back at your first product, you waited too long.
When I first put my first episode out for my podcast, I cringed. I wouldn't even say the first. I cringed so much. And even when I first shared it on social media, I remember I would post it and run away from my own phone. Oh,
brutal, isn't it? But you just got to do it. You just got to start. And I think Mr. Beast says, who's a pretty significant YouTuber and knows his stuff. He said, if you're going to want a big content creation, post 1,000 videos and watch your progression. Do 100 videos and see what's happened. Don't even talk to me until you posted 1,000 videos. You've just got to go, and it's one of those things, you've just got to do it. You've just got to just start. You've just got to start and get going, because you'll never be an expert. When no one's ever started something and been an expert from day one.
Yeah, I agree.
It's the pressure that some people put on ourselves, where we go, I want to be a YouTuber, but I'm not going to get 1,000 views or 1,000,000 views on a first post. Well, that's paralysing. Mr. Beast, I think it took Mr. Beast 100 videos to get even 100 views on a video. It's mad. You've just got to start. And there's some things which is the compound effect. The only way you're going to get 1,000,000 views is by starting. You can't just stop. Can't just go, right, I'll wait to the perfect moment, come up with the perfect video, and launch that. So, yeah.
But that's like with anything in life. Most people that aren't going to succeed in the thing that they want to do the most or their dreams, it's because they gave up when it got too hard. And I believe me, I know in many ways that feeling of when you're banging your head against a wall and you do start to think this would be so much easier if I gave up and I got an office job or I fled to the mountains and I'm a qualified climbing instructor. Believe me, I have thought about fleeing to Italy and just living a nice life in the mountains, like climbing every day, and but I think there's another, multiverse Talia doing that. Believe me. Oh, I love it. I'm so happy for her. Yeah, but it is so much. That's what happens, and that's why a lot of people might not end up getting these dreams. Let's say because it has to get hard. If it's not getting hard, I don't think it's going to then be worth it. And it has to get hard because you have to show yourself and whatever you believe in. Especially if it's like the universe or a higher power, you have to show yourself and. You have to basically show that you will go through the toughest of times to get that dream. And that's when people give up, when it gets too tough. I understand sometimes financially and other things may play a part, but you can still take on that dream in other ways. And you have to continue doing it even through the darkest of times, because I think that shows also the resilience that you will do to get those dreams, whatever they are.
Exactly. And the only resilience is so important in life. At any stage, but especially nowadays, and you've got to have resilience. And I was talking to, in fact, our first guest, Danny Gainsford, who's got something called the Way of the Vikings, which is helping young men out by getting them out doing things Vikingish, less of the rape and plundering, but getting the active and stuff. But he says you've got to go through adversity, and the only way you become resilient is by going through adversity. And you've got to have a little bit of that in your life in order to kind of get through stuff.
Yeah, I mean, actually, just on that, I went. It's actually a great example because it showed me as well just what we mentioned. And on the Viking topic, I went axe throwing on the weekend for the first time ever. Yeah, it's so much fun. So the small axes, they're easy. They're like frisbees. You just throw them like a frisbee. But there was this big axe, right? And that was the one I wanted to get on the board. And there must have been, I can't tell you how many times I couldn't get it. I couldn't nail it into the back wall. I just couldn't. And the instructor was showing, giving me different axes to try, backwards axes to throw, and I kept doing all these other versions of the smaller axe, but then I kept going back to the big one because I said, I've got an hour. I cannot leave here until I have got that big axe on the wall just once. And there were videos of me continuously not getting it. And then there is a video of me getting it that only one time. And when I look back at that video, it shows me that all that hard work of I'm doing it. I know it's different, but I literally leap off the ground. I'm like a bunny rabbit. I jump all the way to the axe, my face, I'm smiling because again, it was hard work. I'm not leaving here until I do it. I only did it once. And believe me, I only needed to do it once because I still remember how happy I was at doing it just once. And again, it's the resilience.
It's resilience and overcoming adversity and setting yourself something and sort of making sure, do you know what, I can't leave here until I've done it. Yeah. I know it will eat me alive. Yeah. I'll be playing this over my brain unless I do this.
Yeah. And that's the thing as well. I could have gone, well, you know what, this is too hard. I'll give up. I'm embarrassed. This is silly. I'll keep doing the other one because I can do the other one. But why keep doing it? Because it kind of goes back to, a lot of us just get on life just because we're comfortable in things. We stay in things that we're good at because we're comfortable. We miracles and amazing things really happen on the other side of our fears and our comfort zones. And I think you mentioned it earlier, like with your son, that first step, and I know the first step is always the hardest. It just is. That first step to doing that thing for the very first time is the scariest thing. But once you've done it once, it's a bit like, okay, I'm still scared, but I've already done it once.
Yeah. It's like quitting A-levels. Once you do it once, you can do it 7 more times.
Yeah, once I quit one, I was like, yeah, how many more can I do?
Get rid of all of them. You mentioned ages ago now that, sorry, my camera's moving. You mentioned ages ago that you kind of always had in your head of being a presenter. You always kind of look back and go, maybe that was where I was destined to be. Do you know why that was? Was there like your hero or your idol you saw, Des Lynam, or maybe Gary Lineker you saw and wanted to do that job? Or is it, what could you remember when you went, do you know what, maybe that is what, and do you remember why?
To be honest with you, not really. I think it was probably a mix between loving sport, but also, film and television. And I think it's, studying film studies. I think I've always loved... I've always loved maybe, the non-conventional. I say non-conventional, I mean by non-conventional, I mean by office jobs, let's say, going into an office and things like that. And I guess I've always loved the side of film and television. Like I even did PR in music, PR in sport, PR in film and like I've done all of the office jobs in the industries. It's funny, but when I look back, I don't know. I love watching films. Maybe I've always loved... I don't know. I really don't. I think I'm captivated by people that, especially that might be in the public image, that go after a dream, let's say, like that. I know everyone's doing it in different capacities, but go after a dream like that, and then I get to visually see it on the screen. And I know the kind of hard work and things like that they would have gone through. And there's something as well, maybe I didn't even realize it at the time, that sometimes when you are doing these things, you get to be your most authentic self. You get to be your most authentic self, how you want to be. I know not everyone is doing that, but you do. And I remember I look back and I did want to be a presenter, and then I guess the dream just vanished. And like I said, I school, uni, I looked into different things to do. And it was after my accident, again, never thought about being a presenter, but it just kind of started to happen. And then I started having a conversation with someone, don't remember for the life of me who, and that came up and they were like, wow, so you wanted to do that when you were like younger. And then it just kind of drifted off into the abyss of the world. And suddenly it came back and I was like, well, maybe I was meant to do it the whole time. I just let other things not get in the way, but I let the other things I needed to do first in life happen.
Maybe what you thought you were supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
Maybe you had to get it out of the way and go, right, I definitely don't want to do that, and I definitely don't want to go back to that. Maybe that kind of gave you the confidence, going, look, it can't be as bad as that. If that's the worst that's going to happen, I'm going to get an office job. I've got to try everything else first. Yeah,
look, I left, there were some office jobs and they really affected me mentally, really affected me. And I remember claustrophobic and I was miserable, like really, really miserable. And I think maybe again, there was this deep down gut feeling that I knew this wasn't what I was meant to be doing. I mean, I was only early 20s, don't get me wrong. People can have this feeling at any age. I'm very lucky in a way to have it so young. But I just remember feeling really, again, I left uni, went to one job for 3 months, then took 6 months out to figure out some life. I had a great 6 months, believe me. I had like a half a gap year. But I got a part-time job. Don't get me wrong, actually.
You even quit the gap year? You even quit your gap year?
Well, no, I actually sat my parents. After university, I went to a job for 3 months. And again, I hated it there. I absolutely hated it there. And you know what? Yeah, I am going to tell this story. I
can see your brain going, should I be?
Yeah, because I'm a bit like, should I? And I'm like, you know what? I will because I will. I went to this job for 3 months and I was fine, happy there for about 6 weeks, and then I wasn't. And they sat me down in my probation meeting, and it was my manager and someone senior came in, and I was like, oh no, this isn't going to be good. And they sat me down and they basically looked at me and they said, Talia, you're not happy here, are you? I said, no, I'm not. And they said, well, what do you want to do about it? And I know for a fact they gave me the chance to beg, to go, I'll do this, I'll do that, I'll do this, I'll do that, I'll and I know that's what they were doing. They were giving me the chance to fend for myself and prove to myself, because I know they would have kept me otherwise. Yeah. And they went, well, what should we do if you're not happy here? And I was like, I don't know. I mean, I was sad because I think I knew what was happening, and I actually did start crying, don't get me wrong. And they said, well, why should we keep you if you're not happy here? Again, they gave me another chance, and I just looked at them and went, you shouldn't.
There you go.
And they went, okay. They were like, so, I remember they were like, oh, okay, so, well, because, you've got a week now when, you can leave tonight, tomorrow, next week, when do you want to go? And I went, well, the Christmas party's tomorrow, so I'll go after that.
Hammered at the Christmas party.
And I came in the next day, went to, I got the Christmas party was in the building. So I went up to them, spent all day setting up with them and had a great evening. And, when I look back, again, it shows maybe who I am, but I think I was 21 at the time, and it's really difficult to stay in things you're not happy in. And even that, they were giving me the opportunity. And like you were saying before, maybe I knew as soon as I begged them to stay, that would have been it. I was signing a contract, which wouldn't have given me a week to leave. It would have given me a month plus. And maybe deep down, I knew this one also wasn't for me.
Yeah, or more importantly, you're signing a contract with yourself saying, look, I'm giving up.
Yeah, literally, I'm giving up, knowing this isn't, knowing this isn't for me. And I look back and I laugh at that story now. I didn't at the time. I was crying, of course. Yeah. But sometimes the right decisions, even if we don't see it at the time, are the hardest decisions. And we might have to feel really bad. You obviously will doubt yourself and, oh my God, why? But I look back now and I laugh at that story, because then for 2 months after, I couldn't find a job. I did apply for loads. I couldn't find a job. And then I sat my parents down 2 months later and I said, look, I don't know what I want to do. I was 21. I was like, I can't figure it out. And I said, this is after uni, so other people were traveling. And I said, give me 6 months off. I said, I want 6 months off. I said, I'm not going to go traveling the world. It's not what I want to do. I said, I'll get a part-time job, but give me 6 months off to just live as a 21, 22-year-old. And they agreed. They said, fine, 6 months, get a part-time job. By October, get a full-time job. I said, fine. And I did. I got a part-time job at my climbing center. I was a receptionist at my climbing center. I had a ball of a time. And I had the best 6 months because when I look back now, it was some of the happiest 6 months when I look back now. And I think I know I've just said this loads of times, when I look back now, I think it was a glimpse into my future. Maybe it was a glimpse into the girl I was clearly meant to be, but wasn't quite yet. And it was a glimpse into doing and living the way that I really wanted to, and I felt that was meant to be me. And yeah, that's kind of, and then I got a job, which was fun for 6 months. And after 6 months, I was miserable again. And I left that after 6 months, and then I went to another job, which I was in for 2 years. But the reason why was COVID happened. And that was all around the same time. And I stayed in, I was never made redundant, very lucky. I was never put on furlough. So I was working a 9 to 5 from home every day. I was very lucky, don't get me wrong. But even a year and a half after that role, I then moved positions in the company.
So I think you could use it if you think of it as like a filter, going, so I like that bit, but I don't like that bit. Yeah. So that's out. So I don't even need to worry about receptionist at the club center or whatever the job is. Making a good decision or a bad decision is a decision nonetheless.
Yeah.
And it kind of takes you onto the path that maybe you should be. Go, do you know what? I really loved presenting. Let's go back to that. Oh, well, then I'll try being a receptionist. I hated that, so I definitely don't want to be a receptionist again. It's removing something that you might have to make a decision about further down the line.
Yeah, and even when things get really hard now, and self-doubt comes in with everyone, and even when sometimes things get really hard now, and I envision myself in the mountains in Italy being a rock climbing instructor, but I also then picture myself back in an office job, and I cringe at that. Because I remember how I felt in it, and I'm like, it almost gives me that push to go, I can't do it.
Yeah. There's really interesting. It's interesting you say about the outdoors. So I've started watching a YouTube channel called The Outdoor Boys.
Okay.
And it's basically a dad who, when he eats, is really really annoys me, the way he eats. He kind of slurps and eats at the same time. He goes, every time you eat, and he eats a lot on Shane, and it makes me cringe. Anyway, what it is they live in Canada. Him and his family, 3 young boys, they live in Canada, and he'll walk out, drive into the middle of nowhere, and then walk for 2 or 3 days. Sorry, 2 or 3 hours, and he'll look at his thermometer. It's like minus 40 degrees Celsius, and he goes, right, I've got a shovel. I've got to make myself my home for the evening. And he'll dig out and make himself it, and then he'll go and find. Well, in fact, he takes really good food with him, but then builds a shelter and then a fire pit from it. I'm like, wow, I'd love to do that. And then I go, actually, no, I don't do well in cold. But that whole being in the middle of nowhere and actually building something is resonates exactly what you're saying with being in the middle of nowhere. But
yeah, I do. I love the mountains. Oh, there's so much peace in them. But just back to what you said about making a right and wrong decision. I've learned recently that actually, I'd say most of the time there isn't a right and wrong decision. Again, someone might tell you it's a right and wrong decision, but everything we think's a wrong decision, that, shuts a door, rejects us, whatever it might be, when I look back, it's probably not actually the wrong decision. It was actually kind of a right decision in a way, or it was a decision we were meant to make, let's say. It was a decision we were meant to make because either it takes us to where we're meant to be or it doesn't, but actually no, it does. It always takes us to where we're meant to be, but just some of us might have to face a lot more rejection and redirection. Again, in anything, whether it's work, whether it's dating, whatever it might be, sometimes if some of us might have to face a bit more rejection and redirection than other people, but that goes back to comparison. You can't compare your journey in your life to other people.
No, I said it on the last podcast with Sam, I think it was, Sam Thomas, and I said, if you knew that to get whatever the goal was, you had to get 15 no's before you got a yes, how quickly would you fire out those phone calls or those meetings to get the 15 no's until you get the yes? It's just, I think some people, because of fear or lack of opportunity or maybe don't take the opportunity, sometimes takes them 10 years to get those 15 no's out of the way, and suddenly they get it. And I wonder if you could use my ridiculous and weird analogy to go, you've got to make 15 decisions before you get to the right one, or 100 decisions before you get to the right one, 15 important decisions. And then on the 16th one, suddenly it become apparent if you knew that ahead of time, how quickly would you make those decisions? You'd get them done in a day, wouldn't you?
Yeah. Look, don't get me wrong, rejection is horrendous. Like it is.
Necessary.
I don't think anyone takes rejection well, and everyone takes it very differently. It's a horrible feeling, but it's so necessary to keep you pursuing your dreams, but also you learn a lot about yourself. And I think learning about yourself and your resilience or your bravery, your confidence, your fears, we have to learn so much about ourselves and our internal worlds as human beings, I think, before we do a lot of other things. And you'll never be given opportunities until you're ready. So if an opportunity has come up for you, even if you don't feel ready, even if you don't feel qualified, it's come up because there is a part of you, at least, even if you're terrified, that you have to give it a go. And you have to face it. And even if you're meant to do that thing and then get rejected after, again, you're still meant to do it, because rejection teaches you so much about yourself. It really does. And you're right, even if those 15 times, or even if you try something 100 times and then you start banging your head against the wall and you're like, why is it still not working? That 16th or that 101st time could be the game changer.
Exactly. Well, I'm going back to the book, I think my second chapter was about Richard Branson, and his quote was, just start. If someone gives you an opportunity, say yes, and then worry about how to do it afterwards.
Yeah, 100%. Oh my God, don't get me wrong. I've done things like that. I've said yes and then gone, oh great, what did I just say yes to?
So how are we going to do it? That's my favourite when I'm with the team. I go back to go, right guys, and they go, oh no, he's been for a meeting with such and such. We're doing this project, like, right, how are we going to do that? I'm like, it's over to you. So many times. But I think it makes it more exciting. Not for them, but it makes it more exciting for me. Go, God, if we did deliver this, that opens up a brand new world for us. Or we die in a ball of fire. But at least we've learned. Do you know what I mean? I think modern companies are becoming much more aware. I think people are as well, that failing fast is more important than having a decision process for for a year and then failing. If you're going to fail really quickly, then you can move on to the next thing. If you focus on something and plan it out and do all the ins and outs of it and take a year before you actually execute on it, and then it fails, well, surely it's better to fail quickly.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm trying to get my team Striver to do is, if we're going to fail, let's do it really quickly and move to the next thing. Or there might be part of it that's actually really successful. Because like Strive Aid we put on Strive Aid in 5.5 weeks, which you were obviously a huge part of and were the host. And thank you very much again for your help, bringing some professionalism to the event. We have 5 weeks to pull that off. And you wouldn't have thought that from behind the scenes. Well, behind the scenes you definitely would have, but from the front of it you wouldn't have thought that.
Yeah.
And that's because we just went, do you know what? We've got Roberto, we've got Gilberto, we've got these players. Let's just find a place, and we just literally just went for it. And I think I told you we got 30 million views in 7 days. You know, sometimes you just got to go for it, and that's put us on the map massively because we kind of said we could deliver something, and we have, and much bigger than we did.
And a lot of people would have seen that and gone 5 weeks. No, that's not enough time. We'll do it next year. No, but that's the thing. They would have gone, we'll do it next year. Because I think as well, people, I get it, you know, perfection and feeling like a perfectionist. I get it. Don't get me wrong. One of my art teachers I remember at school actually told me I was a perfectionist when I was in art. So I don't know, maybe take that and everything else that you've learned about me today. He taught me that in art class. But I've since learned it's not about perfection, you know. It's not. And again, like I was saying, someone might not have done that in 5 weeks because they would have been too worried about it not being, in inverted commas, perfect. We'll wait next year and we'll plan it all year. But again, that can be the wrong way of thinking because, you know, realistically, anything in life, if you just throw yourself in, are you going to be perfect the first time? No. Second, probably not. Maybe not even the third, fourth. You're just not. But if you wait, again, yeah, you're right. If you wait too long, or you wait until the time is right, or you think the time is right, or you keep waiting for that thing to be, in inverted commas, perfect, the chances are it may not even be perfect anyway. And if you've been trying and failing, succeeding along the journey up to that feeling, you actually feel a lot more satisfied because you know the hard work you've put in. Again, go back to mountains. You know, you look at everyone that climbs any mountain, but like look at something like Everest or Kilimanjaro. You know, they didn't just snap their fingers and land on the top. You know, the journey. I mean, if you don't enjoy the journey in life, like really enjoy the journey in life, then realistically, what is the point? Because you know, we all have end goals, we finish lines, but you know, I ran a half marathon, and you know, you see the end of that. You know, I did that after my knee surgeries, and I remember seeing that finish line at the end of that half marathon. I turned that corner and I was like, oh my, believe me, I think I was the fastest in that 30 seconds. When you see that finish line, that marathon, I think I was top. I mean, I couldn't breathe. I'd been running for 2 hours, but I think I was fastest in that 30 seconds because I saw the finish line. Then I'd probably been the whole race. But you know, we always think that there's a finish line or there's a top of a mountain, and okay, great, there is. You know, there is a finish line after a marathon. There is a top of a mountain. But once you've done that one, why do you stop? You don't stop. You go to the next finish line, the next mountain. So that's what the constant in life is. And I think some people think, I'll never be happy until I've got X. I'll never be successful until I've got X. So I think people put too much focus on that one finish line. And they don't realize, because I know I've been there, you don't realize that actually, first of all, on the route to that, you know, in inverted commas finish line, the path can detour and you can end up going to a different finish line, different directions. You can end up doing some amazing things that isn't even that end goal. You can end up on a completely different path and a completely different journey. Or you learn so much about life and yourself and, you know, whatever it might be along the way. You hit that goal, and then you move on to the next thing, or you keep going to the next thing, or that one opens another thing.
Yeah.
So you've got to enjoy the journey. You know, if you just focus too much on the end of the, you know, on the zigzag finish line at the end or the top of the mountain, you're going to forget and miss everything that happens along the way. And sometimes the things that happen along the way as well are the moments that really are worth living for.
Yeah, exactly. It's something, actually, Eleanor, who my other half you've seen her really well as well, it's something we worked on recently because the last 2.5 years have been tough. We've had a startup and we're trying to do something hopefully amazing. If we said to ourselves, you know, when we get Ronaldo on the platform or when we get 1 million users, imagine how our life's going to be. And I sort of went, that's not it. because once we get 1 million users, then it's going to be the next thing. It's going to be 10 million, then 1 billion, and then it's going to. We've got to enjoy the little bits and pieces going along here, and we can't forget that we have a family which we can up with. And if we concentrate on getting 1 million users, we're going to forget the journey that our children are going on. We know we've got our own individual journeys, the journey of our family, and then we've got 3 kids who's coming along because they have to on the sort of journey as well. So it's so many journeys, and you're absolutely right. You've got to enjoy the grind and enjoy the phrase, no matter the journey is as hard as it is. It makes it so much more worth it at the end, and you learn so much more from your mistakes than you do from your successes.
Oh yeah, you do. And it's funny you say that, because I reckon, if you got Ronaldo on the when you get Ronaldo on the platform, you're welcome.
Definitely listening.
Yeah, well there you go. That's how you have to. Just a quick side note on that. Let's rephrase things in life. Don't say if, say when I do something. But when you get Ronaldo on the platform, don't get me wrong, I'm sure you're going to be over the moon. It's going to be absolutely amazing. But you also said that you'll do it, you'll feel amazing, and then you'll think, what's next, what's next, what's next, what's next? And again, that's what a lot of us fall short of. We do these amazing things, and then we like rock on our chairs like, hey, what's next, what's next, what's next? And, last night I was at the Emirates, like I said, for the Palace game, and I had a photograph where we sit. And as I went down to take that photo, I thought to myself, there's a photograph of me in 2012, pretty much in the exact same seat. And I thought about that, and now I'm thinking about it a lot more as I'm talking about it. And it's like, man, if I could tell that, I would have been around 16 or something at the time with a Robin Van Persie shirt on. And I was like, man, if I could tell her just what she's going to go through over the next, however many years it's been. And, I've worked pitch side at the Emirates, and I'm like, if I could just tell her what's going to happen, you know what? I probably wouldn't, because I wouldn't want to spoil it for her. I'd want her to just go through it organically and authentically. And, I remember when I was pitch side at the Emirates for that very first time, I was like, I remember looking up to my seats where I sit, and I was like, what? I was like, and then when I went to the game, whenever it was the following week, I remember looking down at the pitch side being like, what? And those are the moments that, again, you always hold on to. You will always hold on to.
Absolutely. What would you tell that 16-year-old Talia in that seat?
I would tell her, what I would tell her? I would tell her that life is gonna get really tough for many different reasons. You're gonna go through darkness. You're gonna cry a lot because you just are. You're gonna cry a lot, and I would just tell her, which I have done when I look back at who I am, that you just have to keep going through everything. You have to keep going through everything, and just genuinely never give up. And some of the things when I look back now on my darker moments, how I handle certain things now compared to maybe who would have myself would have handled it last year or did handle it. I can handle things very differently now, and this is kind of a bit more with regards to mental health and situations and darkness, and the pride that you feel in yourself when you've faced darkness and you've faced rejections and you've faced, any darkness, and I'm talking about the countless tears and the pride you feel in yourself that no one will feel for you except yourself, the pride you feel in yourself, the joy, the gratitude that you feel in yourself when you can see that you've handled a situation differently, or you've done something, that you may have never even dreamt about doing, and you can look back and think, wow, a year ago or 10 years ago, I would never have in my life thought that this would be me or who I am. And when you can sit back and you can look back and you can think about that as yourself or your younger self, and that is a feeling that if you felt it, I can't explain to someone else, but you know how you feel for yourself. And it's a feeling that you will always take with you. And that's why, I know it's a cliche phrase of never giving up, but genuinely never give up, because, every storm does eventually pass. And, darkness is really hard, and every feeling or emotion, and it manifests very differently for lots of different people. I know that. And it might last longer than you want or you expect, but I am also a big believer of it's yin and yang. You don't get light without darkness. You don't get darkness without light. Look, when you look up at the sky, tonight, wherever you are in the world, I know there's like light pollution in a lot of places, but when you look...
Don't take away the romance.
Yeah, I know. Imagine you're in the mountains, but when you look up at the sky tonight, you will see the stars. The stars are there right now in the middle of the day, but you can't see them because there's so much light, right? Which is obviously a good thing, but you only see the stars at night when there's darkness. And it's the concept together. You only see the light with the darkness. And, the brighter your light might be, the brighter you might shine, sometimes can come with the depths of the darkness that you've been through. And it's funny because I've been through and still do, it's not, I'm not saying, I don't think anyone in this world, in my opinion, is 100% healed, let's say. I don't even think there's a monk in the mountains who's like all, peace and love every day. I just don't. I just don't. I think even they might have a 1% something that makes them angry or something. But yeah. I just think, I've been through a lot of darkness, and, I still will, everyone will face darkness for the rest of their lives in some capacity. They just will, which is hard, but you just will. But I look back and I wouldn't change any of it. And you know what? That's probably what I would tell her as well. I would say, it's only going to get harder, and it's going to get darker. But there'll be a point in your life when you'll sit there and you'll go, actually, I won't change any of it, because I know in my own personal reasons, the things I've been through that have shaped me into who I am and who I continue to become. And I know I had to go through all those things. And believe me, there are things I know I say I wish I didn't. There are times when I like, oh, really? Did I really, 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 really have to go through that? But realistically, I actually wouldn't change any of it. I wouldn't. And yeah, I've seen the darkest corners of my mind. Believe me, I've seen. Yeah, I'm still in my 20s, and I've seen it. Yeah, I've seen it. But I still wouldn't change any of it.
So we mentioned, thank you for being so honest, we mentioned a couple of times about an accident. Do you think, and obviously I know a little bit about it, it was knee surgery, right? You injured your knee.
Yeah.
Talk about that, because do you think that might have been, because you're definitely someone who adversity brings up with opportunities. I think that's how your outlook on life, right? You look at something as an opportunity rather than, and I'm sure you were going through its own grieving thing when you were having surgery and things, but is actually going through that injury kind of gave you that almost just start moment where you went, you know what, this is my moment, I'm now going to go and do my podcast and take on my presenting career and things?
Yeah, so I mean, funnily enough, the presenting the podcast never was the reason, it never came straight after the accident. So long story short, in 2021, I lost control on an electric scooter and I hit a bus. When the paramedics came to the scene, they bent my leg, and I remember them saying nothing's broken. I was in complete shock at the time. I remember I couldn't breathe, hyperventilating. And they said to me, can you walk to the ambulance? And I never forget, I looked at them and I said, I don't know, can I walk to the ambulance? Like, I asked them. And they were like, I'm not the medic. And they were like...
There's a reason you're here. There's a reason you're here.
Yeah,
walk, you probably would have been called.
There's a reason we called you. And they went, yeah, sure. And I put both my arms over the paramedic's shoulders and I took one step on my left leg and my ankle went one direction, my knee went the other direction, and my leg came back together. Just imagine cooked spaghetti. Cooked spaghetti. And I looked down at the time when that happened. So my knee completely gave way and I remember the scream. Anyway, I did my ACL, my MCL and my meniscus. It's actually called the unlucky/unhappy triad. It's a football injury, so apparently.
Google and find out what other footballers have got that.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Yeah. We can make a support group for the unlucky triad.
Yeah, it's like a WhatsApp group. I should get it.
I'd be like, yeah, they've all got football injuries. Be like, nah, I hit a bus, guys.
I hit a bus on a scooter.
Yeah. I tell people I did it in style, got to hit the bus. Anyway, fast forward. Actually, no. So I'm in the back of the ambulance. A friend is in the back of the ambulance with me. I was actually all on my own when I had the accident, but somebody had my phone and they said, is there anyone I should call? And I gave them 2 different people to try and reach. And one of them answered quicker, who was literally down the road, because I was meant to meet this person. They were literally down the road. So they were able to get to the ambulance on time, get in the ambulance with me. Anyway, so we get to hospital, and it's on what you said. We get to hospital and I'm wheeled into hospital. So I'm on my stretcher. My accident was, I don't even know, 20, 30 minutes before. I don't know timings. But I'm on my stretcher, I'm wheeled into hospital, and I'm in the reception of the hospital waiting to, go into wherever I was meant to go. And I looked up at my friend. I swear, I looked up at my friend and I went, everything happens for a reason.
No way.
And they looked at me and they went, can you tell me what this reason is? And I went, I don't know yet, but I'm going to go and figure it out.
Wow.
So even though I knew this was a journey that was going to send me to some deep, dark places, I just watched my own leg buckle under my body weight. I was 25. I knew that wasn't, I knew where this was. Well, I didn't even, I knew in a small capacity where it was taking me. I didn't realize the extent. But I guess there was a part of me inside that knew it was happening for me. Not to me, it was happening for me. And that's the key. That's the key message. Things in life don't happen to us, they happen for us. Back to our darkness, whatever it might be. It's not, if you think it happens to you, you end up being too much of a victim and you fall into that victim mindset. It's, why is this always happening to me? If you take those things and you take an opportunity from it, it's happening for me. And when I look back, I think there were lots of different, whether it's that countless amount, everything that was going on in my life before, I was never fully content. I was never fully happy, never fully at peace, And again, I don't know if people will ever be fully content and happy and at peace. Like I said, darkness will always be there in some way. Maybe not 100% of the time, but it will come in and out because that's life. That is life. But I'm 4.5 years into this new journey. My accident was in August 21, so 4.5 years into my new journey, just over. And 3.5. God, that's really bad math.
I didn't want to say anything, but you brought it up.
Yeah, 3.5. It's 4 years this year. That's why. 4 years in the summer. And 3.5 years into this new journey, and I am the happiest I've ever been. And I'm the happiest I've ever been. But and with everything I've been through, I relearned how to walk. I had 2 knee surgeries. I disappeared off the face of the earth for about 8-9 months around the whole time. I quit my full-time job. I burnt every aspect of my life to the ground. I did it like that. I think, when you're at rock bottom, the only place to go is up. So I think I was down there and I was like, yeah, what else can I burn? Literally, well,
I've got a match and some petrol.
Yeah, literally, what else can I do? Everything is wood here. Let's go. And you know what? I don't even think I was realizing I was doing it. But I think subconsciously there was a part of me that was like, just keep burning. And then there was a moment, can't tell you when I must have had a glimmer of light and maybe my own fire then lit. And I thought, right, I'm going to single-handedly build the life I want to build now. I'm going to do it how I want to do it. And as Frank Sinatra puts it, I'm going to do it my way. I'm going to do it my way. I listen to people, don't get me wrong. I do listen to advice, and I ask loads of people, should I do this? Shouldn't I do this? I do ask loads of people, but I still do things my way. And like we said at the beginning, I have to learn sometimes. And I think that's what happened. And before my accident, for years, I couldn't figure out for the life of me, but something was missing from my life, right? Something huge. I couldn't figure out for the life of me what it was. And I tried loads of things. I didn't know if it was moving country, if it was a job, if it was a specific partner. I had no idea, but I knew something huge, not small, huge was missing from my life. And then about 1.5 years after, I realized what that thing missing was. I was missing. I was missing from my own life. I was the girl, the woman I was actually meant to be. The authenticity and the things I really wanted to do. And I was missing from my own life. And believe me, I'm only at the very beginning of that. I'm learning a lot still. you know, and there are times when I do things and I'm like, no, that's not really me. That's that's the old version of me. And I can see that now. And I'm like, okay, what would old version Talia do, past self Talia do, and what would I do now? And you battle, you know, I will continue, you know, we continuously battle with ourselves, but, you know, I was missing from my own life. And I think if you can, however you want to do it, you know, you have to really do the things that are most authentic to you and stop worrying about what everyone else thinks, you know. Stop worrying, because you'll find your tribe, you'll find the people that want to join you in this crazy thing we call life, and they'll dance with you along the way. And if they don't want to join you and they don't want to dance with you, even if you want them to, then they're not part of your tribe anyway. They're not meant to be part of your tribe.
Yeah, I love that. I love the phrase you said there as well. They've got me thinking loads. Things don't happen to me, they happen for me. Brilliant phrase, and I'm definitely going to be thinking on that today, because there's a phrase that I use occasionally when it all gets a bit much and I've got to pick up one kid from school, drop another one at football, and then pick up another kid and do something else with them. And I kind of go, why do I? And you kind of go, well, I have to do this. And if you change your mindset to, I get to do this, because there's a lot of dads that aren't involved in their kids' life because they travel a lot, or they work a 9 to 5 and travel to London every day, and they actually don't see them before they go to work or after work. So if I go, I get to pick up my son from football, and then from school, and then take him to football, it actually rephrases that in a similar way that your saying says, but things don't happen to me, they happen for me. And even today's been a rough morning already. It's actually phrased, if things are happening for me, there's a reason. It helps you believe that there's a goal in mind, or there's something happening for a purpose. Maybe there's a higher power, or the universe is saying, you're not ready for this bit, you need to do this bit first. And someone far smarter than us is controlling this. But it's a brilliant phrase. I'm definitely going to put that on a t-shirt.
But it is, you know, sometimes, you know, a lot of things can happen and we'll go, why? But sometimes we can figure out the reason almost instantaneously. Sometimes it might take a day, sometimes it might take a week, a month, a year, 10 years. But there's pretty much usually always a reason why it's happening for us. And yeah, I think you just have the visions, have the dreams, have the goals, but be so open to opportunities that come along the way. Because you might think, okay, well, you know, you might think this is the only route, the only path, but it's not. You know, if you're a Marvel fan or not, you know, there's the multiverse, and it branches and timelines happen, and if you only focus on that one journey, you might get it, 100%. But you might miss out on all the other beautiful and small, tiny, amazing moments, because it is the small things in life. You may miss out on all those things along the way that really make you feel, you know, make you feel. But also you may, because you're so, you know, narrow-minded and you just want that, you may miss out on the other opportunities that are coming as well, because you might shut them down, think, no, but that's not what I want. But you never know where that thing then goes. You know, and that's why if an opportunity is given to you, believe me, you take it. Because if you say no, all it's going to do is go to the next person, and that next person will say yes, and then gone. That opportunity will never come back to you. If you're given an opportunity, you're given it for a reason. Look, and believe me, if you really categorically cannot, like for you know, then fair enough, then it isn't your opportunity. But if you find yourself using excuses instead, then actually it might be your opportunity. You're just fueling the fear with excuses. So life's fascinating.
Right. It's so good, right? We could go on for ages. I normally finish on one question, but I've actually reminded me something before I ask the last question. So I got tagged in a post a couple of weeks ago, which made me thought of you. And I don't know why it made me think of you, but it was basically people talking about funny quirks that they have. And one of my, I'll send it to you later. Well, one of my favourite one was whenever I get a rude message from my ex-wife, my ex-husband, I imagine him saying it as a pirate. So, and there was another thing, I can't remember what the other thing was, but it made me think of you. And I wanted to say, is there any sort of quirk or thing that you do unique when there's something bad's happening, or, you know, it's just someone being, just not even that bad, it's just being really frustrating and annoying. Is there anything that you do? Because I'm definitely started doing that. Whenever my kids are nagging at me, I imagine them saying it as a pirate.
Oh man, you know what? I don't actually. But
definitely the pirate thing though.
I might start using things. You know what? I don't. Sometimes what I do is if someone does say something to me or they nag me or they're angry or I end up psychoanalyzing instead. And I actually, maybe it's a quirk in its own way. I kind of sit back and I'm like, I can read it and I can go, yeah, okay, they're going through something or they're handling the situation. They're projecting. And I'm like, in a way, it's actually helped me because then I can go, well, it's not my fault. Unless it has been my fault. And go, it's not my fault. Yeah, it's not my fault. They're projecting. So actually that can soften a blow sometimes. You're like, yeah. But maybe I'll imagine them, or maybe when I psychoanalyze them, I'll, I don't know, imagine them as something.
I remember what it was. Be absolutely right. I remember what it was I thought of, in fact, Eleanor read this out to me. We both said it was something that we thought reminded us of you. It's a compliment in a kind of a way. And he said, whenever I go online shopping, and it says, is this a gift? And you put a little note in the gift. So you put a little right in the gift bit. So whenever she gets this lady ever got some deliveries through from shopping, it was a gift saying, you've worked really hard recently. This is a real reward for you to say, well done for all your hard work, or something, a nice little message in there. I don't know why, but we both thought of you. I thought, genius. You worked really hard and you absolutely deserve these new pair of Gucci shoes.
Yeah, no, it is. Those little things they do. You pat yourself on the back and you're like, I've worked really hard. I'm going to go spend this today.
But she actually gets like a gift, a card from the provider or the people who sent the stuff with a birthday note on it saying well done. Or whatever it is.
You know what? I think I've had things like that before. I think I've had things like that maybe where I can't remember for the life of me, but I do think I've had similar situations, and I'll read it and be like, yeah, thank you so much. I have worked hard for this.
Yeah, exactly that. So the last question before we go, and it's a weird one. What's your favourite failure?
My favourite failure.
Or most important?
Oh my God, I was like, I've got loads.
Yeah, how long we got?
My favourite failure. God, that's a really good question. Because I've mentioned, I've mentioned a few. You know what? I'm gonna use a story quickly. I don't know if it's a failure, but I learned about fear and I learned about myself in it. And I guess it could have been a failure if I hadn't have then done it. It's not work, it's in the mountains. And I was in Italy, and we were doing this, thousands of feet mountain. And we had been doing this via ferrata. So via ferrata, if you do or don't know it, it's like semi-climbing, semi-hiking, but it's paths that are too dangerous to hike on your own, but also, you can't necessarily climb them as well. You can, and basically it's metal. They are already in the mountains, metal, rods. It goes back to like a war or something. I was explained all the history, but you clip in and you follow along, and you clip in, you follow along. So the point of this story is we'd got to a part where we were really high up in the mountains, and I remember looking up to the next section, and my friend turned to me, and other friends had already gone up, and my friend turned to me and said, do you want to do the next section? And I looked up and went, nope. And they said, why? And I said, because nope. Again, every kind of fear came in my head. I guess, yeah, it's dangerous. It's I'm in the middle of the mountains, but every fear in my head came in. I thought, no, I don't want to do it. It's scary. It's dangerous. I'm probably not going to do it. I don't want to put myself through it. And I remember I looked up and was like, no. I remember categorically saying no. And then my friend was like, that's fine. We'll just chill here for like 5-10 minutes and then we can go back down. And I was like, okay. And I could see the other people we knew, like really tiny little dots up in the mountains already. And then I kind of turned back to my friend and went, how far do you think it is to the top? And what's at the top? And my head started to, anyway, I walked away and I remember having this conversation with myself. Again, so it's not really a failure, but in a way it might be. I remember having this conversation with myself going, if I walk away now, and I walk back down that mountain, I'm going to regret it for the rest of my life. The rest of the day, the rest of my trip, the rest of my life. I just knew it. I said, if I don't at least try to get to the top of that mountain, I will forever regret it, because it will show me I let my fear, I let failure, the fear of failure, I let all these things get in the way. So then I turned back to my friend and I said, let's do it. Yeah. I said, let's do it.
Throwing an axe. It's like
yeah.
throwing an axe.
I said, let's do it. And you know what? It's a roundabout story. When I think about it, it's actually really beautiful because we did it, got to the top, unbelievable. Again, one of the most fulfilling moments of my life. And we came down, and as we were coming down, our other friends had sped along. They'd gone, actually, in a way, there's a lesson in it. They'd gone so fast down and along. We were still 2 hours from the bottom, and we'd stopped because the sun was setting in the mountains. And it's one of my favorite moments in my life. And we watched the sunset. We were 2 hours from the bottom of this mountain. We watched the sun set in the middle of the mountains. And actually, that's the graphic of my podcast, I Got Back Up. That photo is me in that sunset on that mountain range. And the reason as well why I'm mentioning that is because, again, we rush through life. We rush through things. We want to get to the bottom, the finish line so quickly. And the other people rush down the mountain. But if I hadn't have gone slowly, if I hadn't have taken my time, I was scared coming down, believe me. If we weren't patient, if I didn't, breathe slowly on the way down, if I just rushed down, I would have missed one of the most amazing sunsets and moments I've ever had in my life. But we were patient and we didn't rush the journey, and I got to have that moment. And again, it kind of encapsulates everything. So, and again, and then the 2 hours down, we had one head torch between the two of us. My friend told me there might be bears there. I was then terrified, but it was a great laugh. Yeah. It was a great laugh.
Oh, you made it.
It was a great laugh, and it's just more of the story, But again, so not a failure in a sense, but it felt like one if I then didn't do it. Because I remember to this day saying to myself, if I don't at least try this, I will regret this for the rest of my life.
Yeah, and maybe that little pause and having a think about it, where you could self-reflect and talk yourself out of it, actually may put you in exactly the way you're supposed to be in watching that sunset.
Yeah, exactly. And everything that happened along the journey, every pause, every stop, everything that happened along the journey was able to pass at that sunset at exactly that right moment.
Yeah.
Exactly the right moment. Mm-hmm. And that goes with everything in life. Everything in life.
Sometimes you're where you're supposed to be, and sometimes it's just starting, but sometimes actually you're right where you're supposed to be. Just be patient. Yeah, patience is the word I'm learning a lot at the moment.
Yeah, and it's a way of, you can put it into everyday situations like sitting in traffic. I've learnt this, and I know other people do it. I've learnt it. Sitting in traffic, you get there. Believe me, it's annoying when you're in traffic, but you're in traffic for a reason. Just, You're not meant to get to the destination at the time you're meant to get to that destination. So you're in traffic for a reason. And I believe me, things have happened in the day when these serendipitous moments have then happened. And I sit back and I think, whatever it might be, even the smallest of things. And I sit back and think, if I'd rushed there, or I'd not done that this morning that I thought I was meant to be doing, that small chance encounter would never have happened. But it was meant to, because everything leading up to it was meant to happen.
Absolutely, I do exactly the same thing. Well, great moment to finish on. So, thank you, Talia. We could go on for another 2 hours, I reckon. But thank you so much for joining us. Great work with Football Footnotes, is it? Is that you on Yahoo?
Yeah.
So where can we find you, and where can we find some of your amazing work?
So you can find me on all social media. So TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn. I love LinkedIn. And Twitter, just Talia Lazarus. And then also my podcast is called I Got Back Up. And you've been on my podcast, and you can listen to Tim's episode and anyone else's. And again, that's on all platforms. Just type in "I Got Back Up" on any streaming, YouTube or anywhere you listen to your platform, listen to your podcast. So, yeah.
Brilliant.
Thank you, Tim.
Talia, so much. I know how busy you are, so thank you for giving us some time.
Thank you. It's been amazing.
This episode of Just Start is powered by Alloy Collectors. Football fans, it's time to level up your merch. Alloy Collectors transforms football jerseys into premium metal collectibles, because true fans deserve more than just another scarf or mug. Get 15% off with code JUSTSTART and grab a limited edition Just Start X Alloys tee. Plus, score a chance to attend a private exclusive event with some of the biggest names in UK football.